They say family is the anchor in life's storms, the unwavering constant amidst a sea of change. But what happens when that anchor becomes a chain, dragging you down into the depths of disappointment and unspoken expectations? What if the tapestry of your family history is woven with threads of quiet resentment, subtle manipulation, and a love that feels more like a transaction than a gift? My name is Sarah, and I learned the complicated truth about family not through grand pronouncements, but through the slow, agonizing unraveling of the ties that bound me, and the eventual, painstaking reweaving of a life on my own terms. This is my story, a testament to the enduring strength of the human heart, and a reminder that sometimes, the greatest act of love is to let go. I grew up in the comfortable, yet constricting, embrace of the Miller family, a name that held a certain quiet respect in our suburban community outside of Denver, Colorado. My parents, Robert and Carol, were the embodiment of the American dream, or at least their carefully curated version of it. They weren't wealthy in the extravagant sense, but they were solidly upper middle class, living a life that prioritized stability, appearances, and adherence to a well-defined social code. My father, Robert, was a partner in a successful local law firm, specializing in real estate law. He was a man of routine, of quiet ambition, of unwavering adherence to the rules. He believed in hard work, delayed gratification, and the importance of maintaining a respectable image. He wasn't unkind, but he was emotionally distant, more comfortable expressing his affection through financial provision than through genuine emotional connection. My mother, Carol, was a homemaker, a role she embraced with a dedication that bordered on obsession. She was the president of the PTA, a volunteer at the local hospital, and a regular attendee at church events. She was the glue that held our family together, the tireless organizer, the keeper of schedules and traditions. But beneath her cheerful facade, I sensed a deep-seated dissatisfaction, a yearning for something more than the prescribed role she had been assigned. I had an older brother, Tom. He was the athlete, the popular one, the one who effortlessly fulfilled our parents' expectations. He was a good student, a star on the football team, and a natural leader. He was everything I wasn't, outgoing, confident, and seemingly content with the well-trodden path that had been laid out for him. I, on the other hand, was the quiet observer, the introspective artist, the one who questioned the status quo. I found solace in books, in music, in the quiet contemplation of the natural world. I was a good student, but my academic achievements were often overshadowed by Tom's athletic triumphs. My artistic inclinations were tolerated, but never truly encouraged. I felt like an outsider in my own family, a square peg in a round hole. The unspoken pressure to conform, to fit in, to live up to my parents' expectations, weighed heavily on me. I learned to suppress my own desires, to stifle my own voice, to play the role of the good daughter, the one who never caused trouble, never questioned authority, never strayed from the prescribed path. But beneath the surface, a quiet rebellion was brewing. Leaving for college at the University of Colorado Boulder was my first taste of freedom. Away from the watchful eyes of my parents and the constant comparisons to my brother, I began to discover who I really was. I majored in psychology, drawn to the complexities of the human mind, fascinated by the forces that shape our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. I made friends with people from different backgrounds, with different perspectives, with different dreams. I joined the university's art club, rediscovering my passion for painting and drawing. I explored new ideas, challenged my own assumptions, and began to question the values I had been raised with. It was during this time of exploration and self-discovery that I met Michael. He was a graduate student in environmental science, a passionate advocate for sustainability and social justice. He was everything my parents weren't, unconventional, idealistic, and deeply committed to making a difference in the world. We fell in love quickly, intensely, drawn together by our shared values, our intellectual curiosity, and our mutual desire for a life less ordinary. Michael challenged me to think critically, to question authority, to embrace my own individuality. He saw past the carefully constructed facade I had presented to the world, and he loved me for the messy, complicated, authentic person I was beneath the surface. Our wedding was a small, intimate affair, held in a beautiful mountain meadow, surrounded by close friends and family. My parents attended, but their disapproval was palpable. They couldn't understand why I would choose a man who prioritized social impact over financial security, why I would choose a life of uncertainty over the comfortable predictability of their world. 7 years after our wedding, our daughter, Emily, was born. She was a bright, curious, and endlessly loving child, a tiny spark of joy that illuminated our lives. She inherited Michael's gentle nature and my artistic eye, and she quickly became the center of our universe. We were a happy family, living a life that was rich in love and purpose, even if it wasn't rich in material possessions. Michael had taken a job with a non-profit organization dedicated to environmental conservation, and I was working part-time as a therapist, counseling children and families. We lived in a modest but comfortable home, surrounded by nature, and we were deeply grateful for the life we had built together. Then, when Emily was just 5 years old, our world was shattered. It started with subtle symptoms: fatigue, loss of appetite, occasional headaches. We took her to the pediatrician, who initially dismissed our concerns, attributing them to a common childhood virus. But the symptoms persisted, growing more alarming with each passing day. Then came the seizures. The diagnosis was a devastating blow, a rare and aggressive form of childhood cancer. A type of sarcoma. Our lives were instantly transformed. The future, which had once seemed so bright and full of promise, now stretched before us, a terrifying landscape of uncertainty and fear. We were plunged into a world of hospitals, doctors, treatments, and endless worry. The cost of Emily's treatment was astronomical. Our insurance covered a portion, but we were still facing tens of thousands of dollars in out-of-pocket expenses. We sold our car, took out a second mortgage on our house, and borrowed money from friends and family. We were doing everything we could, but it wasn't enough. In desperation, I turned to my parents. It wasn't an easy decision. I knew their limitations, their priorities, their deeply ingrained belief in pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. But I was desperate. I would do anything to save my daughter's life. I hadn't spoken to my parents much since Emily's birth. They had visited a few times, always bringing expensive but impersonal gifts, always more interested in talking about Tom's latest promotion or their upcoming vacation than in connecting with their granddaughter. Their visits were perfunctory, obligatory gestures designed to maintain the appearance of a loving family, without any of the substance. But I clung to a flicker of hope, a desperate belief that, faced with the reality of their granddaughter's life hanging in the balance, they would finally show some compassion, some understanding, some willingness to help. I called my mother and asked if we could have dinner at their house. She agreed, but her voice was hesitant, guarded, as if she sensed the purpose of my request. The dinner was a tense, awkward affair. My parents' house, a spacious, well-appointed home in a quiet, upscale neighborhood, reflected their comfortable, yet conventional, lifestyle. It was a house filled with carefully chosen furniture, tasteful decorations, and an underlying sense of order and control. It was a world away from our own cluttered, chaotic, but deeply loving home. We made small talk, exchanging pleasantries, avoiding the elephant in the room. My father talked about his work, my mother about her latest volunteer project, Tom about his new sports car. I listened, my stomach churning with anxiety, my heart pounding in my chest. Finally, after the main course, I could no longer contain myself. "Mom, Dad," I said, my voice trembling, my hands shaking. "I need to talk to you about Emily." My mother's smile faded, replaced by a look of apprehension. My father's expression remained unchanged, his eyes fixed on his plate, as if he were trying to avoid eye contact. I explained the situation, the severity of Emily's diagnosis, the aggressive treatment plan, the overwhelming medical bills. I told them about the sacrifices we had already made, the loans we had taken out, the desperate measures we were taking to save our daughter's life. I pleaded with them, my voice cracking with emotion, tears streaming down my face. "Please," I begged. "I need your help. We're desperate. It's Emily's life." My mother sighed, a sound of weary resignation. "Sarah," she said, her voice carefully controlled. We understand that you're going through a difficult time. But we've just finished remodeling the kitchen, and we've already committed to taking that trip to Europe we've been planning for years. It's our 30th anniversary, you know. We've been saving for this for a long time. My father nodded in agreement. We've worked hard all our lives, he said, his voice firm, unwavering. We deserve to enjoy the fruits of our labor. We can't just throw away our money. He said this without a trace of irony. Throw away? I stared at them, my mind reeling. They were prioritizing a kitchen remodel and a vacation over their granddaughter's life. But it's Emily. I choked out, the words barely a whisper. My father looked at me, his expression a mixture of pity and irritation. Sarah, you need to be realistic. You and Michael chose a different path. You chose careers that don't pay well. You have to accept the consequences of your choices. My mother added, her voice laced with a hint of condescension. We've always told you to be more practical, more responsible. Maybe this will be a learning experience for you. Tom, who had been silent throughout the conversation, finally spoke up. Look, Sarah, I'm sorry about Emily, I really am. But I've got my own expenses. I'm saving for a down payment on a house. I can't just bail you out. The words hit me like a physical blow. I felt a wave of nausea, a surge of anger so intense I thought I might explode. I had come to them, my family, my own flesh and blood, begging for help, and they had rejected me, not with malice, but with a cold, calculated indifference that was even more devastating. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor, the sound jarring in the silence of the room. Thank you, I said, my voice shaking with rage and grief, for reminding me, once again, that I can't count on you for anything. You are not my family. You are strangers to me. I turned and walked out of the house, leaving behind the remnants of the carefully staged family dinner, the lingering smell of their self-righteousness, and the shattered remains of my naive hope. The days and weeks that followed were a blur of hospital visits, chemotherapy sessions, and sleepless nights. The weight of Emily's illness, coupled with my parents' callous rejection, threatened to crush me. But I refused to let it. I had to be strong for Emily, for Michael, for myself. What surprised me, what sustained me, was the outpouring of support from unexpected sources. Michael's family, who had always been warm and welcoming, became our anchors. His parents, retired teachers living on a modest fixed income, insisted on moving in with us to help care for Emily and to provide emotional support. They cooked meals, cleaned the house, read stories to Emily, and offered a constant source of comfort and reassurance. They were the embodiment of selfless love, a stark contrast to the conditional affection I had received from my own parents. Our friends, too, rallied around us. They organized a fundraising campaign, setting up a website and reaching out to their networks. They brought us meals, ran errands, offered to babysit, and provided a constant stream of encouragement and practical assistance. They were a testament to the power of community, the kindness of strangers, and the enduring strength of human connection. Even people we barely knew stepped up to help. A local bakery donated a portion of their proceeds to Emily's medical fund. A group of artists organized a silent auction, selling their work to raise money. A children's theater group put on a special performance for Emily and other young cancer patients. The generosity and compassion we received from these unexpected sources was overwhelming, humbling, and deeply inspiring. It restored my faith in humanity, reminding me that even in the darkest of times, there is still goodness, kindness, and a profound capacity for empathy. Emily's treatment was grueling, a roller coaster of hope and despair. There were days when she was so sick she could barely lift her head, days when the side effects of the chemotherapy seemed worse than the disease itself. But there were also days of remission, days when her laughter filled the house, days when she was able to play, to dream, to be a child again. Through it all, Michael and I held on to each other, drawing strength from our shared love for Emily and from the unwavering support of our community. We learned to live one day at a time, to appreciate the small moments of joy, to find hope in the face of adversity. As Emily's health gradually improved, I began to feel a stirring within me, a need to express the emotions that had been building up inside me for so long. I had always found solace in art, but I had never considered it a serious career path. My parents had always encouraged me to pursue something more practical, more stable, something that would guarantee financial security. But now, facing the fragility of life, the uncertainty of the future, I felt a need to reclaim that part of myself, to give voice to my experiences, to connect with others through my art. I started small, sketching in a notebook during Emily's naps, painting in stolen moments when Michael was home to care for her. I poured my grief, my anger, my fear, my hope, and my love onto the canvas, creating images that were both deeply personal and universally resonant. I painted Emily's strength, her resilience, her unwavering spirit. I painted the darkness of the disease, the harshness of the treatments, and the glimmer of hope that had sustained us through it all. I painted the faces of the people who had helped us, the kindness of strangers, the power of community. My art became a form of therapy, a way to process my emotions, to make sense of our suffering, to find beauty in the midst of pain. It was also a way to connect with others, to share my story, to offer hope and inspiration to those who were facing similar challenges. I started sharing my work online, on social media and on a personal website. The response was overwhelming. People from all over the world were touched by my art, by Emily's story, by the raw honesty of my expression. I received messages of support, encouragement, and gratitude. I realized that my art had the power to heal, not just myself, but others as well. Several years after Emily's initial diagnosis, and thankfully after her full recovery, I received an unexpected offer. A local art gallery, which had been following my work online, invited me to have a solo exhibition. I was hesitant at first. I had never considered myself a professional artist. I had always thought of my art as a personal passion, a private outlet for my emotions. But Michael encouraged me to accept the offer, reminding me that my art had the power to touch others, to inspire hope, to make a difference in the world. The exhibition was a success. My paintings resonated with viewers, drawing crowds and generating positive reviews. I sold several pieces, and the gallery offered to represent me on an ongoing basis. My artistic success was not just a personal validation, it was a testament to the power of resilience, the ability to find beauty and meaning even in the face of adversity. It was also a quiet, subtle form of defiance, a way of proving to myself and to my parents that I could succeed on my own terms, without sacrificing my values or compromising my integrity. It felt like a turning point, a moment where I fully embraced my identity as an artist, as a survivor, as a mother who had fought for her child's life and won. 10 years after Emily's diagnosis, I received a phone call from my mother. It was the first time we had spoken since that disastrous family dinner. Her voice was hesitant, subdued, a far cry from the confident, self-assured tone I remembered. She told me that my father had been diagnosed with a serious illness. He needed a costly surgery, and their savings were depleted. Tom, still struggling with his own financial problems, was unable to help. We don't know what to do," she said, her voice cracking with emotion. "We're desperate." A wave of conflicting emotions washed over me: anger, resentment, pity, and a strange, unexpected sense of responsibility. I had spent years trying to distance myself from my parents, trying to heal from the wounds of their neglect and their judgment. But now, hearing the desperation in my mother's voice, I couldn't simply turn my back on them. I thought about Emily, about the unwavering support we had received from Michael's family and from our community. I thought about the power of compassion, the importance of forgiveness, the enduring strength of the human spirit. I told my mother I would think about it and call her back. I talked to Michael, seeking his counsel. He listened patiently, understanding the complexity of my emotions. "It's your decision, Sarah," he said. "Whatever you decide, I'll support you. But remember, forgiveness is not about condoning their behavior. It's about freeing yourself from the burden of anger and resentment." I also talked to Emily, now a bright, compassionate teenager. She listened intently, her eyes filled with understanding. "Mom," she said, "you don't owe them anything. But maybe helping them would be a way to show them what real family means." Her words resonated with me. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about proving a point. It was about something bigger, something more meaningful. I called my mother back the next day. "I'll help you," I said, my voice firm and unwavering. "But not in the way you expect." I explained my plan. I wouldn't give them money directly. Instead, I would establish a fund, in my father's name, to help other families facing similar financial challenges due to medical crises. The fund would be administered through a local charity, ensuring that the money was used responsibly and effectively. My mother was initially confused, then disappointed, then grudgingly accepting. She realized that this was the best, perhaps the only, offer she was going to get. The establishment of the Robert Miller Family Fund was a quiet, private affair. I didn't seek publicity or recognition. I didn't want to make a grand gesture. I simply wanted to do something good, something meaningful, something that would honor the lessons I had learned. The fund became a source of healing, not just for the families it helped, but for me as well. It was a way to transform my pain into purpose, to turn my past into a force for good. It was a way to close the circle, to find a measure of peace, to finally, truly, let go. My parents never fully understood my decision. They never apologized for their past behavior. But they accepted the help, and they lived out their remaining years with a measure of dignity and financial security. And me? I continued to paint, to create, to share my story with the world. I had found my voice, not through anger or resentment, but through compassion, forgiveness, and a deep, unwavering commitment to making a difference. The tapestry of my life was still marked by scars, but those scars were now interwoven with threads of resilience, hope, and a love that had been forged in the crucible of adversity. It was a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit, and a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always the possibility of healing, of growth, and of creating a life that is both beautiful and meaningful. The circle was closed, not with a bang, but with the quiet, steady hum of healing and hope.